Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first UHC NFL podcast. We got a couple members of the UHC community here to get today, all part of the Ultra Reddit League, and we're just gonna be talking about football. This will be going up sometime before the Thursday night opener, Week One, Texans at the Chiefs. And we're going to be doing this hopefully weekly as long as we can keep to a schedule. So, as a quick introduction for what the podcast is going to be, it's just going to be a weekly thing. We're going to try to do weekly, talking about, well, not this week, but talking about past weeks of football. So, like next week, we'll talk about how week one went. We'll also talk about any notable trades, releases, acquisitions, or injuries. Um, we'll have a specific topic of discussion each time. I'll tell you today that's going to be Bucks, boom or bust, and then we'll be doing predictions for notable games that we think are notable in the next week, and then we'll just kind of go from there each time. So, as a quick introduction, my name is Regifloat, and I'm an Eagles fan. Frost.
I'll go
Hello,
next.
Reggie. Oh, this is an AA.
God dang it. My name is FrostBros, and I'm a Lions fan. Woo, 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 woo.
All right, going all extra on there.
My name is Ejecko, and I am a Saints fan. Who dat?
I am BBR, and I am a fan of the Chicago Bears.
Bear Don.
I've never heard you say it like that. All right, so yeah, myself, Frost Bros, Ejecko, BBR, we are all part of the Ultra Reddit League as we discussed. So we might, as weeks go by, we might throw in a little talk about fantasy in there, any particular booms or busts in the fantasy league that we are noticing. But so now that we got an explanation of the podcast and we are explaining ourselves, let's talk about some of the notables that have been going on. I think the big one that is going to be on all of our minds right now is Adrian Peterson getting cut by Washington and then heading over to our friend Frost in Detroit. Frost, how do you feel about that?
I mean, I'm kind of pissed, but realistically, honestly, it's not that bad of a deal. 1 year, 1 mil is not that bad. And with how Deion Swift and Carry-On have been with injury prone already through training camp, we kind of need a new running back kind of deal. So hopefully he can pick up the slack. But if not, if he's just a bust, he's going to be horrible. I'm going to tell him get the fuck out of Detroit. But half our team needs to get out. But
You're going to tell him personally.
oh, I will go up to Adrian Peterson and say, get your fucking running boots and get the fuck out of here.
I feel like he beat his kid.
Okay, we're starting off strong. BBR, you're in that division. How do you feel about a veteran like that coming in to your division? Are you afraid, and do you feel like this is anything more than a glorified running back coach?
I am not afraid because of Chicago's defense, and I don't even think he's going to play much of a factor because he's not going to be lead back. He's not going to be putting up crazy numbers. He's just kind of an insurance policy for their running back room.
I agree. I'm going to stick with what I just said about it being a glorified running back coach. Just coming in, kind of be a mentor, have someone for, as Frost said, Swift and Carrion to look towards.
And I mean, in a season of question marks with potential COVID
Yeah.
issues, delaying people and sitting them out weeks, having that kind of depth is never a bad thing.
That is true, and I will take. If I was a Lions fan, I would take a little bit of experience, even with the age, over just a whole bunch of young people. Ejecko, any thoughts on that one?
Well, in a fantasy standpoint, he hurts Carry-On Johnson and DeAndre Swift, but in reality, he's good for the locker room. However, he was a former Saint, and he didn't do much, so hopefully he does more
Yeah.
for the Lions than he does for the
He's-
Saints.
He's also a former Minnesota too, so he's been all over the place though. He's
And,
been to
uh,
the Cardinals,
he was from
Saints,
Minnesota.
Lions. He's
Now,
been to like 5 different teams now.
a,
So.
a little bit of perspective I can add as an Eagles fan because of the loss of Peterson out of Washington is about a couple weeks ago they also lost Darius Juice, I believe.
Mhm.
So now, as an Eagles fan, I'm looking at that situation and saying, okay, I don't really have a running game down there to worry about, which works, kind of. I guess we'll see on that end. Not that anyone's expecting a whole lot out of Washington this year, anyway. The Washington.
Shouldn't that
We don't-
scare you though? Meaning Washington's gonna have to pass against the Eagles secondary. Shouldn't that be a little?
I'm not too worried about that, honestly. We'll talk a little bit about that. Actually, that was my next point on the list. Was I wanted to mention a little bit about Philadelphia cutting a couple of people, notably for me, Sidney Jones. That was remember the 2017 draft class. He had one notable play that I can remember last season. He broke up the pass in the Week 16 Cowboys game. He broke up the Dak to Gallup pass. But I mean, other than that, he really didn't do anything. And I guess they were so unimpressed with him that they decided they would rather get rid of him. I think they also cut Cravon LeBlanc, which tells me a lot because he was looking very promising last season, and I'm not liking the fact that they cut him. We do have Slay running around at corner, but I'm not whole. I feel stronger about our safety. We have young, unproven talent at linebacker. But I feel stronger at safety. I don't know. BBR is right. I don't like our pass defense after you go past Slay. And I don't either. They made a bad decision or they just had an abysmal training camp because we really needed some depth at that position. Depth in any position right now is incredibly important.
You'll recognize this with a lot of teams too. I feel like you're gonna see a lot of teams cutting people who you wouldn't expect it, because we haven't been able to really look at these players. There was no preseason this year, so it's kind of interesting to see all the cuts.
Yeah, it's gonna keep going off of training camp. I'm sure a situation, not to poke fun at BBR here, like Chicago probably could have used a couple of preseason games just to give Trubisky a couple starts and give Foles a couple of starts. But not just that. I mean, you're talking places like Miami, certainly Cincinnati, who is going to start Joe Burrow. Other places like maybe Los Angeles. You know, these guys with their rookie quarterbacks are not going to get a whole lot of time to get those guys started. And the Patriots too. Big gamble for them going off on Cam Newton, and we'll have to see if that pays off or not. But they're not for a lot of these guys that are either unproven because of youth or injury. There's not a whole lot we get to see outside of training camp, and no one's trying to hurt themselves at training camp. Now that they're not going to get hurt, you can just take a solid look at the Philadelphia O-line for that. I don't know how Andre Dillard got a season-ending injury in training camp, but he did.
Wasn't a 2-year lineman got that? 2-year.
Well, Brandon Brooks has been out for a little while. He's going to be out for the whole season, but that was off of something he did in practice. But he's always had some injury question marks. So, yeah, it was just me. Philadelphia cutting off some secondary. BBR brought up a good point.
Before we move off this topic, another thing I'd like to point out, since you brought up the lack of a preseason, we're going to see a lot of sloppy tackling this first week. I'm expecting a lot of, 40, 50, 60-yard plays because people are just going to be missing tackles. The offense has, more opportunity to run routes than the defense has to tackle because obviously first there was an extended period of no pads in the preseason. I think they only had like 2-3 weeks of pads maybe. So there's not a whole lot of tackling with pads. So, I mean, there's going to be a lot of slip tackles. The quarterbacks with big arms are going to let loose. And I think we're going to see some odd plays.
I brought this up with Frost too last night, is that I think there's going to be a lot of injuries just because they're going straight from a training camp setting to a full-on playing game setting. And for some of the people, especially injury-prone people, I know Lane Johnson, for instance, question on the Eagles, or just older players in general. Again, our O-line on the Eagles, Jace Peters and Kelsey. But they're just they don't have that flow to sort of get back into the flow of things with preseason. They're going right from a training camp, and they're not going to have any time to work out the kinks in the team or themselves. So they're just going to have to go full force right away. I think that's going to be a scary prospect for teams that are working off of a lot of older talent. Tampa, certainly. We'll get to that later. But yeah, it's just something that is definitely going to be noticeable the first couple of weeks. Sloppy playing, and a lot of injuries.
It'll be interesting.
What's that?
And to add on to that, there's going to be a lot of sloppy kicking, I think. We've seen a lot of kicking competitions this off-season. And, sorry to poke fun, Mr. BBR, but Chicago isn't really as good on kicker as they are with the Saints, Eagles, and Lions. But even
Absolutely
with the
not.
Lions punting, like Matt Patricia did an interview the other day, he still doesn't know who his punter is going to be. So they expect
That's
a lot of missed kicks and a lot of shanks in the first few weeks.
I'm gonna agree with that one.
It's
Punts
going to be
especially.
even
I
harder
will.
on the Bears when their primary kicker, Eddie Pinheiro, was dealing with a foot injury during camp. They did bring in Cairo Santos for a few weeks, and it's looking like he's going to stick around the practice squad. But in obviously the season where a disease can take out any player for up to 2-3 weeks potentially,
True.
having that backup is pretty important.
And
Yeah.
because of that as well, I think we're going to see a lot more people heading up from the practice squad. I mean, a little bit of that last year with, say, and not to just use my team as an example, of course, the Eagles had a ton of injuries, and a lot of our players, Greg Ward, Boston Scott, they were coming off the practice squad. I think we're going to see
Yeah,
a lot more players like that. A lot more young players are going to get their big shots because teams, there's no way to prepare for that. I mean, you got to figure someone goes down with COVID and they have to quarantine. I mean, there's no possible way to predict just how bad that can affect a certain team or teams. We're seeing that in baseball right now. In baseball, it's a lot easier to make up games, but it's not going to be that easy. It's not going to be that easy for football. So if teams have to miss games because it gets to such a bad point, I mean, this is assuming that we're going to be having a full season in general. Knock on wood.
I think at this point we are so far in that a season will happen. It is inevitable.
Yeah,
Unless multiple teams from a division are going out at the same time, I think it will carry on and go into some kind of win percentage based playoff seeding.
yeah. I think if we reach a point where most, if not all, teams end up missing a week or two, I would have a hard time seeing it be all. But if a good amount of teams end up missing a week or two, they probably will just go off of percentages. I could see some people being mad at that, but it's just the way they're gonna have to work. I mean, the other option would be to spend time making up games and pushing back the playoffs, and that's not gonna happen. So
Well, the most important thing about the NFL is their scheduling is great, and there are so many common opponents. You're always going to play your division twice each. You're going to play the same
true.
conference in your conference, or division in your conference. You're going to play a same division in the other conference. The only unique thing is your previous seeding against your own conference. You'll play ones will play the ones, that sort of thing.
Right.
So I mean, the
And so
common
when
opponents plus the win percentage will factor in, and they should be able to get by.
Yeah, I can see a couple of scenarios popping up where you might find. I'll use an example. The NFC East is playing the NFC West this year. Say the Eagles take the loss to San Francisco, but then by the time San Francisco plays Dallas, they can't play. So they'll go out. But that's a game that is a big opponent for Dallas. So I could see just small stuff like that because it can be win percentage, but it can also be stuff like teams ending up not playing the same opponents, and that showing some skew. I think no matter what happens, there's going to be some upset people,
Correct.
as there
Yeah.
always are in sports.
It will not be fair, but
No,
it'll have to
certainly
do.
not. I can almost guarantee a couple of teams getting into the playoffs, even with a 7 seed that shouldn't. A couple teams missing out on playoffs or home field advantage, even though they shouldn't miss out on that. It's gonna be a lot of unpredictability, so we're just gonna have to kind of work with that.
I think we can all agree. Just happy that football's back.
I agree
Hell
with you.
Hell
Full
yeah.
on. I'm glad there's no delay. They were able to. The timing really worked out well, I think. For
Honestly,
football.
COVID didn't really affect football. Like other than our preseason cut, I mean,
It,
well,
it, and that's gonna be a huge effect though.
it's gonna be but I mean, realistically though, nothing else got canceled.
It was honestly perfect timing for football. Not that you can call a disease like this perfect, but
Yeah.
for it to knock out the USA starting in March when the Super Bowl finishes in February, I mean, you couldn't have
Yeah.
asked for a better circumstance if there were optimal circumstances.
I can't
Yeah.
even imagine the Super Bowl having to be delayed. It would have been.
Oh, people would be pissed.
Don't put that evil on us.
All right, a couple other things real quick before we move on. Jadeveon Clowney heading over to Tennessee. It's not official yet, but he has declared he's going to, and they're working out the details. I think that makes Tennessee look a little better. Not that I didn't already think they looked better. What do you guys think?
It's them from going 9-7 to 10-6, maybe 11-5.
It
This
certainly
hurts
helps.
because the second team in contention was the Saints, and obviously I am a fan of them. I would have liked Jadeveon Clowney. However, we would have been in cap hell because we wouldn't have been able to afford him. We were going around asking people to take pay cuts. So even though I wanted Clowney, this isn't the end of the world, and he should be good in Tennessee.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I was thinking when I saw he might have been going to the Saints, I was thinking about that cap space issue too. So this might just work out better for everyone in general. Plus, the Saints do already have a pretty good team.
We're
Uh,
all right. We're all right.
My opinion on the matter, I don't see the Titans as a legitimate Super Bowl contender. I do think they are a playoff team, just out of the sheer fact that the Jaguars are in their division, so that's 2 free wins. And I just
Was
to kind of
Jaguars.
transfer to a team in their division, I don't think the Colts are going to be that good. I don't think Philip Rivers has it anymore.
I'm gonna agree with you. Old player at this point, playing to who's number one? T.Y. Hilton,
Yeah.
and he's going to that from Keenan Allen. So I think there's just not that I don't think T.Y. Hilton is good. I have him on my fantasy team, but there's going to be a little bit of a downgrade there. I mean, old guy quarterback sitting behind pretty good, uh,
See,
pretty good
it's
O
not
line.
just old guy quarterbacks because you compare him to other people his age. You look at his shoulder, look at video from last year. His throwing motion, it's degrading. It's not there anymore. I don't think he can pull off any sort of
Well,
miracle in Indy.
I agree
here's
with
my
you.
here's my thing. I think the Chargers overall, he had better weapons with the Chargers overall. I think you could agree with that with Melvin Gordon,
Well,
having
sure, yeah,
Austin
yeah, Keenan
Eckler,
Allen.
having Keenan Allen, and now he goes to a Colts team which is probably worse with the weapons, and also I think the defense isn't as strong. So it's I see like a 7-9, maybe
I don't even think it's going to be that high.
I
7-9,
disagree with
6-10.
all of you. I think the Colts win the division because I don't think Philip
Oh.
Rivers was the reason that the Chargers lost that last year. I think that was because of their defense. And when Derwin James got injured, like he did this year, their defense completely fell apart. I think he was the anchor. And so Philip Rivers was playing from behind in a lot of those games. He goes
Yeah.
to Indy, and he's got a much better O line. I think the weapons are comparable, if slightly not as good. He's got Jonathan Taylor and Marlon Mack, a plethora of running backs, and the defense is better. So I think they can be pretty good this year.
Here's my counteraction to that. What was it? There was a couple games where he's thrown multiple interceptions.
He has.
That's most of that's on him.
It is, but it wasn't all on him. Like
Yeah,
it's been made out to be.
to go on that point, it's hard to tell just off the interception numbers alone uh, how much of that is a fault of the quarterback and how much of that is a fault of a receiver messing up the route running or just dropping it.
And also, Rivers doesn't have to be amazing because the Colts won games with Jacoby Brissett last year, who
That's a
he's
good
decent,
point.
but he's not as talented as Rivers. So Rivers doesn't have to be all world for the Colts to be good.
That's a good point. That is a good point. We'll have to see on that end. And then to just finish out the division, Texans. I don't see them doing as well. I don't know what they picked up, but I know we all know what they lost. And it badly affects them. So I don't know if they picked up anything that would make up for that, but I don't see the Texans team doing that well either. And certainly not better than the Titans, who I feel like have just gotten better in this offseason.
Texans, all I gotta say is DeAndre Hopkins trade was probably the worst thing in the whole. That was the worst trade I think in the whole entire NFL offseason.
I don't want to spend too much time on this, but I just don't understand how anyone can trade what I would consider, and I don't know what all you would consider, but what I would consider a top 3 wide receiver in the league for a third and a fifth.
Yep.
I'll say 2 words and leave it at that: dumpster fire.
I agree.
Yeah.
Total waste of an extremely talented quarterback.
Quarterback, wide receiver.
No,
Sean
the team itself is wasting an extremely
okay,
talented
yeah.
quarterback.
Oh yeah.
I got 2 more points here. Josh Gordon. I don't know as much about that.
Josh Gordon will be interesting. I feel like he will get reinstated. There's no reason why he shouldn't be. It'll be interesting. I don't know if he's been working on the off season, so I don't know how productive he'll be. I haven't really kept up with that with him, but he'll be an interesting play with Seattle because I think they really do need him. Honestly, not really a need, but it will help their offense a tremendous ton, and honestly might push them over the edge. Definitely with San Francisco having all these injuries during the off season, not the, well during the off season, freaking practice. So it'll be interesting. I
And
feel like
that,
they might
that San
have to
Francisco
really.
team in general has been losing some of their talent that got into the Super Bowl before. So it's definitely going to be. I still think, and they got that Week 17 game too. Just looking ahead, and I still think those two teams are going to be battling incredibly hard. That's certainly a tough division. I would not want to be Jared Goff right now.
So, let me give me 1 second. San Francisco has Nick Nick Bosa, D Ford, Quan Williams. Just 12 people that are questionable right now. It's
That's
all from
and when you're
injuries.
talking to someone like Bosa, I mean, he was
Yep, Bosa
uh,
and D Ford are two of the two standouts, I would say.
no question on him being the defensive player or defensive rookie of the year last year. He's going to be a really good player for years to come. And for 49ers, who their defense was so good, I think partly because, in fact, I'd say large partly because of Bosa, that's going to be a hard hit for them if he is out for any games.
Uh,
Now the other thing. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
It was just uh, you'd be surprised if he'd be surprised if he wouldn't be available for week one, says Kyle Shanahan.
Both
So
Bosa brothers have been dinged up in their career. You see Joey miss a few games every year. Nick was banged up in college and then eventually declared for the NFL. So this isn't out of the ordinary, but he should
at
be
least he
able to
isn't
make
JJ.
most of them.
At least he isn't JJ Watt.
Not
Swear to
yet.
God.
Knock on wood.
All right, and then we got one more point we're going to go to here. This will be BBR's shine, I think. Trubisky has been named the starter over in Chicago over Nick Foles.
Oh,
I
Oh,
disagree
I don't
with
know
the
why Frost is
Packers.
laughing if you look at the numbers versus the Lions, but carry on,
yo,
buddy.
don't get me started. Okay, we could talk about.
All
Well,
right, hold
we'll
on.
leave this
Hold
conversation
up.
until when it's the
Hold
game.
on. All right, let's calm down a second. First, I want to hear from the perspective of someone who's been following it a lot closer than us. BBR, what's your thoughts on Trubisky being named the starter?
So, following a lot on the subreddit, it seems to be the common take on the thing is it's a lot easier to give Trubisky one last shot than to dash his hopes completely at the start of the season. This is basically his last ride. They're going to give him one last shot. They'll give him a leash, maybe 2, 3, 4 weeks. If he's not there, Foles is going to come in. But honestly, a lot of the media coming out, and it is just media, so we don't know if it's true. He did have a good camp, supposedly, has showed they don't word it as improvement, but showed to be the better quarterback. We don't know because we don't have tape really from camp, so we can't really compare that.
True.
But we just have to go off of word of mouth, and we won't really see. But if you look at his Lions numbers, he has great numbers against them statistically. It says a lot about the Lions, I think, more than it does about Trubisky, though.
I'll wait. I won't say anything. I'll wait till we get to the game. How about that? Until we start. Well, until start game.
But I think I don't know. He has probably a decent matchup in week one to kind of show if it's still there, and then he's got the Giants in week two to kind of also. So I mean, his if he bombs, he's gonna bomb hard, and they're just gonna move on from him.
I'm gonna speak a little bit because of the other one being Foles. I agree with you actually. I really liked Foles here. Obviously, never gonna hear a Philly fan say they didn't like Foles. But I do think he did get severely overrated. I think he got way overpaid in Jacksonville and I'll say in Detroit. Sorry, Chicago as well. And the big thing for me is that I think Foles is not as reliable of a quarterback as people make him out to be, and I'm saying this as a person who cheerfully watched him win us a Super Bowl. But I already thought I would take Trubisky over Foles. BBR's point about giving Trubisky one more shot instead of dashing his hopes at the beginning makes sense. Especially because, last season he wasn't great. The season before, I mean, you guys went pretty far. Um, got a pretty good record. So we'll see where it's going to turn out. I agree with the decision to make Trubisky the starter, and I agree with the reasoning BBR's got there.
One last thing regarding Foles. You brought up his overpayment from Jacksonville. Jacksonville is eating some of that salary when he came to Chicago.
Yeah.
Chicago is not paying that full amount for him to just sit there.
Jacksonville stinks.
Listen,
I think we'll all agree on that.
Jacksonville in general is just they're the Miami Dolphins of this year, basically.
And you know what? The Miami Dolphins weren't even the Dolphins of last year.
Sorry,
The Bengals were the Dolphins.
let me rephrase that. They're going to be the Cincinnati Bengals of last year.
Playing off that real quick side tangent, is there anyone who doesn't think the Jaguars get the number 1 overall?
I mean, there are a few teams that are an injury away from being a dumpster fire, but I think they're a pretty clear favorite to be bottom tier and
top 5 for sure.
If they win,
you want me to be honest?
They will trade Minshew and trade DJ Chark. They will make sure they get Trevor Lawrence by any means necessary.
That mustache is gonna be short-lived.
Poor guy.
I like him. He's a good quarterback. I know Frost was pissed that he got stuck with them in the fantasy.
Yo, don't worry.
I think he's got a lot of young talent.
Baby. I got good trading material.
All right.
Fucking Connor tried fucking giving me some weird running back and freaking Ryan Tannehill. I'm like, I'm not trading Cam Newton for him.
All right, so let's take a look now. Topic of discussion. We got 2 for today. We're probably normally going to do 1, but one of them is very small. We're going to do everyone's favorite, way too early Super Bowl predictions. Let's just go in order, I guess, reverse order of the pictures. I'll go first. I have the Chiefs over the Saints. Frost?
No. Do you want my realistic one, or do you want the one I want to happen?
If we'd all have our teams there if it's the one we want to happen. What you think it's going to be? What are you calling it?
I'm gonna say because, and this is gonna maybe be a shock. I'm saying Minnesota. It'll be Minnesota versus Baltimore. I think Minnesota wins.
What?
Bold call. I'm okay with it. Ejecko.
I hate you. I hate them. No. Okay. I think that the Chiefs are going to beat the Saints. I think it's clear that the Chiefs are going to be very good. Saints, I'm the least confident I've been in them since 2017. But I like them better than the 49ers and Packers this year. But yeah, Mahomes repeats.
And I have it identical to Ejecko. I have Chiefs over Saints. I do think Chiefs are a solid team, and they didn't really lose too much, if anything at all. In fact, they've even re-signed people. And I think the Saints are still a good team, but this is do or die mode for them. They're in cap hell. If they don't do it now, they're never going to do it in the next 2 years. So I think they show up.
So 3 of us have Chiefs versus Saints, and then Outlier Frost has Vikings versus Ravens.
What an idiot.
Yo, all I gotta say is, who's that?
I'll talk a little bit about that. I did in past have Vikings going to Super Bowl and Ravens going to Super Bowl. I don't think those two are like totally out of contention. Obviously, both of those are playoff teams, probably getting past wild card weekend teams at least. But it's a tough one. Baltimore's going to have some questions. We're going to see if they're as good this year as they were last year. Certainly they got a good defense and a quarterback I think we all agree is relatively good.
Bold prediction here. Baltimore will not win the AFC North.
That is a bold prediction. I'm going to go against you. I think they win pretty comfortably with Pittsburgh coming in wild card.
I have the Steelers going 13-3 and making the AFC Championship.
I think you have too much trust in Ben Roethlisberger.
I don't trust Ben Roethlisberger. He doesn't play. Coming off the injury, it's going to be interesting. He's either boom or bust, if you ask me. Either he's going to be like how he was in the 2017 season, 2018, where he was the number 1 leader in passing yards and fantasy. And he was just overall one of the better quarterbacks in the whole entire league, or he's going to be just horrible. He's going to be mediocre at best.
He's going to make everyone around him better, I think. Juju and James Conner, and God rest his soul, but they won 8 games last year with Duck Hodges as quarterback.
Rest in peace, Duck got cut.
Yeah, I did see that. Duck got cut.
No
today.
more Duck.
Forever in our hearts.
Forever in our hearts, the Duck.
But
That's
he's
poor
great.
guy.
But Duck Hodges is no Big Ben. Big Ben is better than him.
Yeah,
We
Well,
can
for
all agree
sure.
there, right?
Yes.
I'm gonna continue to say he's coming off a hard surgery to ever come back from. That the Tommy John surgery that he had is you're gonna see it in effect this year. Somehow, some way or another, you'll see how his throwing. You'll see it's gonna affect him.
In
It
my
affects
opinion,
baseballers.
if the Steelers have average to above average quarterback play, they can win a lot of games this year because their defense is that good.
I will agree with you about that. I don't think they win the division. I think they go. I think they hit the number 5 playoff seed though.
I
That's
have them in the
crazy.
wild
I have
card.
them no matter what play. I see them wild card at least if Big Ben can play average to above average football. But if he can't and he goes down to playing like Duck Hodges, then I see another 8-8 or 7-9 season with them.
I agree.
We'll definitely have to see about that. It's going to be one to keep an eye on. Now, speaking of boomer bust, we got a pretty hot topic right now with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, just going into this, they did reach the big news recently is they picked up Leonard Fournette out of Jacksonville. They do, of course, have Tom Brady, Gronkowski, and then two phenomenal receivers. I have them both in my top 10 in the league, but two extremely good receivers in Godwin and Evans. I just think overall they're a very strong team, and Brady's older, but he's not a bottom tier quarterback. I think he's still effective. Gronk's gonna have a question mark. He hasn't played in a year. We'll see how he comes back. But I'm gonna go boom. I think I'm seeing them not beating the Saints. I actually see them splitting with the Saints and going on a high wild card seed. That's my opinion, anyway. I think they are going to be high double digit wins. What do you guys think?
Uh, I said this before. I said this again. Their defense is very questionable. They may do well. They may not do well. I'm gonna say their offense. They have two of the best wide receivers, like you said. They have LaShawn McCoy and Leonard Fournette, two I would say at least average running backs who could at least pull their own weight. Tom Brady, I think, is one injury away from ending his career. Um, I say 9-7. I think they make the playoffs still, but it's a 9-17.
Okay. Ejecko, what do you think? That's in your division. What do you think about that?
The Buccaneers' backup quarterback is Blaine Gabbert. With that said, assuming Tom Brady stays healthy, they probably have the highest floor outside of Kansas City. They're going to be really good. I mean, how can they be bad with Tom Brady? You got Gronk for 5 games this season. You got Leonard Fournette who just signed. You got Mike Evans, Chris Godwin. You got 3 good tight ends, and the other two being OJ Howard, who hasn't shown his potential yet, but he has potential. And then you got Cameron Braid, who's a touchdown machine. They've got a good offense. The defense is kind of questionable, but Shaq Barrett is an elite pass rusher. They can get to the quarterback at the very least. But I have them going 11-5, coming in the fifth seed in the NFC, and I have the Saints winning the division, but only missing out on winning the division by 1 game is the Buccaneers 11-5. That's definitely a boom in my book. They may start slow because they haven't been together for that long, and in this COVID era, that's important. But 11-5 for sure. Bucks will be good.
All right, BBR, what do you think?
I think to highlight a few points from Ejecko, they have a very high ceiling, but just the lack of a practice with each other, you're throwing in a lot of new players. But if you just look at Tom Brady's release time, it won't matter who's rushing at him. He's got those weapons around him. He can make things happen. As long as the play calling's there and Tom's on the same page, I mean, their offense is going to be rolling, and it's just a matter of the defense.
I agree with all that. I think the offense is just really strong. I think it comes back again. I mean, you got the tight ends, you got the running backs, but I think it comes back again to just having two elite, I'll say, wide receivers there. Just for him to throw to them alone is just going to make a huge difference compared to what he had up in New England with just Edelman and then a lot of uh, young talent. Seemed to be confusion up there, maybe some dislike. I don't know. A whole lot of speculation, that's for sure. So we'll see. This will answer the age-old question: is it Brady or is it Belichick? I guess we'll find out this year. So
Definitely think Brady will do better this year.
I'm going to agree with you. So let's go on to predictions. Let's talk about a couple. We got a couple of the notable games. We'll just run down here. And if anyone wants to throw one in, obviously, Thursday night we're gonna have the Texans at the Chiefs. Chiefs are favored by 9.5. I'm gonna agree with that. We think we talked about the Texans already a little bit. Chiefs, as BBR said, did not really lose anything, and have re-signed a lot of guys and gotten a lot better, or at least kept the skill they had before. So I'm calling Chiefs. Anyone else?
Um, Here's the thing. I still think the Chiefs because I think this Chiefs are overall better team. But I'm gonna say this now. I feel like the Chiefs are gonna lose like at least 3 games this year that they shouldn't lose. This has the potential to be one of them, but I don't see it. I will say because you got to remember they did put 24-0 up there last year, but then Bill Belichick decided to go dumpster fire mode for the last after they scored 24
You,
nothing.
Bill O'Brien, you did it again. You
So
calling him Bill Belichick?
How dare you?
Bill O'Brien.
Bill Belichick, man. Imagine that coaching with Deshaun Watson. We'd be in for another 10 years of
Greatest
dynasty.
coach of all time, Bill O'Brien.
Bill O'Brien.
Big developer there. BBR, any thoughts on the Chiefs Texans lineup?
I don't think the Texans are going to be very competitive in this game. I really don't.
I agree.
I think it'll just come down to a consistent game plan, and the Chiefs aren't really changing a whole lot this year. I doubt they are.
I'll agree with that. Now we're gonna run through. Oh man, this is gonna be a fun one. We're gonna save Bears Lions for last because I can see that being a shouting match. Let's Packers Vikings. Now that's a more interesting one. For me personally, Vikings favored by 3. I'm gonna take the Vikings personally. I think their defense is great. Picking up Yannick Ngakwe is gonna be great. I hope I'm saying that name right. They did lose Diggs, but honestly, I mean they've got oh, I'm gonna draw a blank on which receiver. Oh, they got Justin Jefferson. So we'll see. We'll see. I'm gonna take the Vikings. I don't like the Packers as much this year. What do you guys think about that one?
Packers didn't really do anything on their offseason. I don't think they made any major signings. They re-signed some people, but that's about it. I feel like Vikings, to be honest, they are. Who's home actually?
Vikings is home.
Vikings home. I give it to Vikings.
Ejecko, BBR.
I'll let Ejecko go first if he has something to say.
All right, well, you look at the Packers, they didn't really improve in the offseason, but I think that them trading up and drafting Jordan Love has pissed off Aaron Rodgers so bad that he will just win MVP. I think he'll be amazing this season. I think they're going to beat the Vikings week 1, and Aaron Rodgers will just carry that team. He and Aaron Jones, of course, but Packers beat the Vikings.
I'm kind of torn on this one. These are 2 above average, I would say, football teams. It'll be a great game. I look forward to watching. It's kind of tough. I think I have to say Packers here. Aaron Rodgers is one of the best game managers in the NFL, and in a season where home field advantage does not exist, I think even if the Packers are away in Minnesota, I think they can pull this out. Aaron Rodgers is just flat out better. I think he can overcome the deficits of the rest of his offense, not having any amazing receivers outside of Devontae. I think the Packers win this.
That's true, and that is something I forgot to think about is the lack of real home field advantage, at least in the start here, before maybe some stadiums start going to minimal capacity. It's gonna be an interesting game. It seems like we're pretty split on that. I'm gonna stick with my guns, but you're right. It's gonna be a great game to watch. That's for sure.
I look forward to that.
All right, we're gonna keep going with Cowboys Rams Sunday Night Football. The Cowboys are at the Rams. Dallas is favored by 3. I hate it. I hate that I have to say it, but I'm gonna pick the Cowboys to win. I don't like the Rams really. I mean, they've got arguably one of, if not the best player in the league in general, Aaron Donald. And they are just a good. They got a good defense. I don't like their offense. Cooper Kupp's, above average. Jared Goff, I think, is passably average. But I don't like a whole lot of what the Rams going on. Meanwhile, Cowboys, Lost Byron Jones on the defense, but did improve a lot, and also already had a pretty good offense, a top five offense, I'll say. And I think I've seen some people say this. I'm going to agree with it. The only reason CD Lamb's not going to get Offensive Rookie of the Year is because he's the third wide receiver. He's got so much other talent to share with on that team, and you're going to be seeing CD maybe get some catches. Obviously, Zeke's going to be running the ball, and then you still got Amari Cooper. You still got Gallup. So it's gonna be a mean team. I don't like the Rams. I think they're average this year. Cowboys are certainly gonna beat them out. As much as it pains me to pick the Cowboys, I'm gonna agree with that one. What do you guys think?
I've got to agree with the Cowboys. I think the Rams are going to have another step back year, like they had last year, from having being very dominant in 2018, with 2019 being they did kind of take a step behind. I mean, San Francisco came up as more of a competitor, and Seattle did come back up for both going 11-5, and they went 9-7. I feel like
Right.
this is another 9-7 season, maybe 8-8. They just have too. They're in cap hell now for like the next fucking 3 years. They
Yeah.
had to eat all that contract from Todd Gurley. Plus, they are overpaying Jared Goff. So until they can figure all this out, they're going to be stuck with whoever they have. And I don't think they have the weapons to beat the Cowboys, to be honest.
I agree with that. Ejecko?
I think the Rams eke out the victory here. I think they open up their stadium with the W. Cowboys are going to have some. There's going to be some commotion in Jerry World after they start out 0-1 to an average Rams team, but the Rams still have decent weapons. This is very. They're very need. They need big production out of Darrell Henderson and Cam Akers in that running game, but I think they get a little bit here and they beat the Cowboys who start slow. And we've seen how much the NFL has advertised the stadium. So if the Cowboys get close, we'll see a 2019 NFC Championship scenario.
Yeah, I guess I could see that. I think it is worth remembering too as well. But
The Saints were robbed.
of course they are.
My
I
daily
I think we all agree with that. I think it is worth remembering too. In a season like we said, where consistency from past seasons is going to help you a lot this season. Cowboys working on Mike McCarthy, where Rams are still working on McVay. I think that's going to make a big difference. BBR, what do you think about the game?
I like the Cowboys here. I don't think it'll be It'll be a very close game. I think these are two teams that don't do so hot in prime time, but prime time's a little different. It's just a time of day thing now. It's not really a big event with no major fans.
Yeah,
I still think the Cowboys are a more complete team, even if the Rams have some stars. I give the edge to the Cowboys.
I'll agree with that. And before we come back to Bears Lions, because that'll be a fun one to talk about, let's take a look on Monday night. We got two. We got the Steelers at the Giants. Steelers are favored by 4.5. Now, the only reason I wanted to bring this up at all is because this whole game is pretty much a giant question mark around Big Ben and around whether or not he's going to come back and produce Week 1. Plus, Giants obviously are also bringing in a new coach. I'm gonna call Pittsburgh, but I wanna know what you guys think on that because I think it's gonna be an interesting game to keep an eye on.
I think no matter what, change my mind. I think Pittsburgh wins this no matter what. Even it doesn't matter how he plays. It'll be good to watch, see how Big Ben is. But I think no matter what, we're gonna just find that he's just gonna probably end up, winning. Why did I say winning? I think no matter what though, Seattle, not Seattle, fucking Steelers win.
Come on,
Steelers win no matter
Frost.
what, I think. Yo, I'm not in the right mind right now. Fuck.
Yeah, I think Bill Belichick takes this game over.
Alright, Jekko, what do you think?
But yeah, as I alluded to earlier, I think the Steelers are going to be good. I'm
That's
picking
right.
the Steelers in this game. I don't think it'll be a blowout. It can be close, but those Steelers will beat the Giants.
BBR, same page?
I'm pretty much on the same page here. I'm pretty high on the Steelers. I don't think they'll obviously win the AFC North or anything, but I'm pretty high on them making the playoffs, and I think it starts here. You're gonna see a resurgence of Ben, and it really the closest to the game will definitely rely upon how much you feed Saquon the ball and how few times Daniel Jones turns the ball over.
True, that is true. It will be a good thing to keep an eye on for sure, but we all seem to be on the same page with that one. And then another one Monday night. Titans at the Broncos. Denver is favored by 1 point. I'm gonna agree with that. I like the Titans, but I'm gonna be honest. I love the Broncos this year. It's gonna be good to see if Drew Lock is gonna be good. In fact, that could be a discussion point we bring up in future episodes. Uh, Young talent Sutton at receiver, Fant at tight end. And they've still got a good defense. We'll see if Von Miller keeps up production. I think he was coming off an injury, or at least a sensitivity. So we'll see if he keeps up with that on the defensive side. But I like their defense and I love their offense, and I feel like they're going to be an explosive and fun team to watch. Locke was fun to watch in those last 5 games of the season last year, and I think we're going to see more of that. I do think it's going to be a close game. I like how it's only favored by 1 point. I wouldn't be surprised to see this game going even on the scoreboards by the time the game starts. But I'm gonna go with Denver. What do you guys think, Frost? I didn't hear a word you just said.
I said 1 second. Fuck. I said I think the Titans, to be honest. Titans, I think, are still a stronger team. I mean, they've kept most of their people. They're signing to Devion Clowney. I think
True.
the defense. It'll be a tight game. Don't get me wrong. I think it'll be a very close game, but I think the Titans still prevail.
Okay, Ejecko?
The Broncos seem to be an intriguing team this year. You know, I've seen Drew Lock be a popular dark horse candidate, if that even makes sense, for MVP. There's a lot of hype surrounding this team, but their left tackle, Garrett Bowles, sucks. Call him Garrett Blows. And their right tackle opted out. I think this is not a very good situation. I think the Broncos this year could be the Browns of last year because they didn't have any tackles pretty much. And you saw how that worked out. Baker had to run for his life. I see Drew Lock doing that, and I've taken this roundabout way of saying I think the Titans are going to win. They've got more consistency, and they will beat the Broncos on Monday night.
All right, BBR, what do you think?
I see a lot of positive things in Denver. I would love to see what the Godfather, mafioso Vic Fangio does with a second year in the Denver defense. I think they show some improvements there. I still think Tennessee is the better team here, though. But it'll be an exciting match. I still take Tennessee, though.
Okay, I'm going against the fault a little bit there. Now we're gonna go for the one game that's left on our talking. So here's what I'm gonna do. I want to get me and Jekko's opinions out of the way before you guys devolve into it. We're gonna talk about a little bit about the Bears Lions. Now I think there's a little bit of interest in the Bears Lions. Detroit's favored by 3 because they're at home. I think the betting lines are still going off of assuming home field advantage is gonna be as important right now. So I think you take away home field advantage on the Lions. I think this game goes a lot closer to even, and I would agree with it being closer. Bears Lions, I could easily see them splitting. I don't love a whole lot about either team. Bears have very good defense, and Lions are just going to be a question mark on whether or not they're going to continue to be productive. But you know how it goes. The Lions always mess something up. Bears obviously have a question mark at kicker, who BBR says they like in training camp. So we'll see how that's going to turn out. I think these are both question mark teams, and I think they're both playing in a division with 2 very good teams. So I definitely see this game as the beginning of what's going to be a battle for third place. Possible playoff contention, but the rest of the NFC is pretty strong. So that's my opinion. It's a tough one. Just because they're at home, even though there's not a whole lot of advantage, I'm going to probably take the Lions. I do think Trubisky will have a decent-ish showing, enough for them not to cut him week 1 anyway. Jacko, what do you think?
The last time Trubisky played at Detroit, he almost lost to David Blau. I'm picking the Lions to win. I think they're going to be slightly better than, well, they'll be even with the Bears, but, adding home field, even though it's not as much of an advantage, still a little advantage. And Matthew Stafford's playing. He should be healthy with Golladay and Marvin Jones. I think the Lions win week 1 and let the shouting begin.
All right, Frost, BBR, what do you guys
BBR,
think?
you go first, BBR. I want to hear your after what these two said,
okay.
I want to hear what you
So
said first.
where am I going to start? I think the Bears defensive line versus the Detroit offensive line will be a big story. The Bears bringing in Robert Quinn and obviously retaining Khalil Mack and bringing back a healthy Akeem Hicks, who has actually missed a little bit of training camp, so kind of asterisk on the healthy there. That'll be big because if you allow Stafford to attack the Bears secondary, which is featuring, a few question marks on the deeper end of things in depth, it'll be interesting. Obviously, the Bears offense is the biggest question mark, and David Montgomery doubtful, I think, is at this point, but
Yeah,
potentially
I think
questionable. Not,
I think it's questionable, highly doubtful. I think because
yeah,
of
I
the
don't think he's playing, and they designated Cordero Patterson as a running back on the depth chart, so I don't know what the fuck's going on there, but it'll be interesting. It's so tough. Honestly, if the Lions do split with the Bears this year, it is the Lions winning this game at home. You give the Bears time during the season to ramp up and really decide their QB. I don't think the Lions win the second game at in Chicago, so I think if the Lions do steal one, it's here in Detroit. It's a coin flip of a game. I really can't say one way or another. One team is better here.
I
I'll
will
say
jump
that
in. I'll jump in real quick just to say that I agree. I think these guys split home games, and I can see the Bears winning later in the season. Frost, go ahead. What do you think?
I'll say that the Lions have a lot of question marks too because we have a lot of people who we signed as JB Collins, Desmond Trufant. We signed Jeff Okuda. We have all these very good players, but we haven't yet to see them in action and how this new defense is going to be. At least Patricia isn't running the defense this year like he was last year, and we saw how well the defense was last year. So we do have a new defensive person though, actually running a defensive coordinator this year, actually running the defense good. I think our offense is better than I think our defense will be enough to keep the Bears offense. Already, it's already like BBR said, it's already full of question marks. I think we're able to hold them to only a couple touchdowns, and how dynamic our offensive is. We still have Galladay, we have Marvin Jones, we still have Carry On. Where AP might play the first game. No one knows about our running backs because Deion Swift is supposed to be not. He's supposed to be injured, so we don't know. Like Carry On's probably at least going to play the first game. At least I would say at least an average running back. I feel like we're going to win. I feel like it's going to be very close though. It's going to come time to figure out how our defense is going to go work, and with how Chicago is with their offense, it'll be interesting. I think it'll be a tight, interesting game.
Okay, so it actually seems like we, for the most part, we agree. It's
I
gonna
just
be.
have one more talking point here.
Oh,
It revolves around the David Blau game.
oh,
Take it away.
oh.
That wasn't that like bad of a game. That it was a game that the offense actually wasn't the fault. Trubisky threw for 338 yards, 3 touchdowns and only 1 interception. So I think that was more of a game where the defense fell apart and allowed Blau to get a big play or two. I don't think that's to take into account because Trubisky, 11-4 TD to interception ratio over his career versus the Lions. He is a Lion dominant QB.
Yeah, but you guys also said, was it for the Thanksgiving game last year? Was it that he was injured and you guys had to start Chase Daniels, or was it because he just wasn't performing up the way? That's why
He was
started
injured.
Chase Daniels.
Trubisky got knocked out in the Vikings
I
game.
just remembered that was the worst fucking game I ever fucking seen of backup to backup quarterbacks trying to fight each other.
Yeah.
It was a very sloppy play of football, and I stopped watching over at halftime.
We'll have to see how that pays
You
off
were,
this year.
at that time, I was at the Lions. Let's just lose and get the fucking third or second pick. You might as well. We're already out of contention. Just
All right. Well, were there any other notable things or games that anyone wanted to bring up before we went ahead and headed off?
Did we talk about Saints Bucks?
Did we talk about Saints Bucks? Did I skip
We
that
did
game?
not.
Oh, Saints Bucks. All right. Well, Saints Bucks. Let me just take a quick look here on the line. Saints are home team. They're favored 3.5. I'm gonna let Ejecko lead this one. Actually, it's his team.
So it's at New Orleans where, there will be no fans in the Superdome week 1. But then again, the Bucks haven't had a whole lot of experience practicing together, so I think that evens the playing field back.
Very
I
true.
think the Saints eke out a win. I think they're the better team than Tampa, albeit slightly. And the Saints, it may be a shootout, it may be a low-scoring game, but I think they get it done week 1.
I'll agree. I'm gonna say it's. I'm gonna say actually. I'm mostly certain it's gonna be more of a shootout. Um, I'm gonna go with the Saints as well. I see these two teams splitting, especially because the Bucks are gonna be hosting the game in around the mid-season where they can finally get on their feet a little bit. I think it's gonna be a rough start for the Brady Buccaneers, but I think Saints are gonna take this win and I haven't really lost any sleep over making that decision since the schedule got posted. What do you guys think, Frost?
I think Saints win this one. It's too early. It's too early for the Bucks to really solidify anything. Yeah, they have a lot of good pieces, but you have Leonard Fournette with only like what I would say probably a week and a half of working with them. Even
Yeah,
after this week, they don't have enough time. I don't think they're gonna really utilize him that much because he probably doesn't have the offensive that much down. LaShawn McCoy's probably gonna be their main starting running back. I feel like, and he's an average. I would say probably he could do the job. I don't see them coming together good enough. I still think the Saints are the better team here, and I think they'll win. I think it will probably be a shootout, to be honest. But as long as the Saints defense can hold up decently well, I think they win.
all right, BBR.
I think the Saints take this. I think it's just a matter of the Saints having played with more of their players together. They have that chemistry built already. But it'll certainly be fun just to see the Buccaneers and see what they are fully capable of if they even get anything rolling at all.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a good game to watch. Definitely going to be. They're keeping that at the 4:25 slot, just sharing that slot with the Cardinals Niners game at that time of the day. So I don't think there's going to be anyone picking. I think it's going to be an obvious game to watch.
Yeah.
um. So, all right. Well, anyone have any other points of games next week or of discussion they want to bring up before we head off?
Go Lions.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, so that's gonna be it for today. We will be back next week. I'm assuming I'm putting this up on Wednesday, meaning next week it will be up. Or you know, next week it'll be up
We'll
Wednesday
see.
or Thursday before the Thursday night football game. We're gonna try to get these things out before the Thursday night football game, but after the Monday night football games, we don't have a large window there. Um, so we'll see you guys next time. Thanks for listening.
Wait,
And
wait, 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 wait,
oh,
wait, wait, wait,
okay.
wait, wait,
Oh
wait.
no.
I gave you a chance. What do you want to
No,
say?
no, no, no. I have to play one thing before
No,
we leave.
no, we're not doing it.
1 second.
No, we're not doing
No,
it.
no. Let me play it. Let me play it. Let me
Oh
play
my
it.
god, Frost, it's gonna
Copyright?
sound like shit coming out of your speakers. I'm not. Guys, thanks for listening.
Yeah.
We'll, we'll be back next week. I think we're all just happy football is back. We're all gonna be Rob Lowe at that one Chiefs game with an NFL hat on. That's what we're all gonna be.
Forward down the field
All
to
right.
opponent.
Thank you
Not
all.
you, but the Lions silver wave.
Shut it down.
Sing it, great.
All right.
Rah, rah, rah. Forward win the game.
All right, I muted Frost. All right, guys, thanks for watching or thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week. Thanks. Bye.